What's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to give you some things to consider when you're trying to decide, should I start a business or buy a business? So today's video is all about value. Do you buy value or do you create value? But before I get too far into it, let me tell you, a lot of the information that I'm giving you, I didn't Google this. I've been involved in about a dozen different companies, and a lot of those I started from scratch. So when I tell you a lot of these things, these aren't like something I made up or did an internet search to find. These are things I learned from real world experience, making mistakes, building companies in multiple different segments of the market. And the reason I started this YouTube channel was to help people that were thinking about starting a business or making an investment. The YouTube algorithm will be much more likely to push my videos if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn your bell notifications on, and share the video with somebody else. It also helps if you comment on the video. And as a thank you for doing this, here's a cute video.
Okay, Dad, can I hold it?
You want to hold it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Say like and subscribe. Say like and subscribe.
You saying like and subscribe? So now that that's out of the way, when you're thinking about buying a business or starting a business and maybe weighing those out, here's the first thing I would consider. How much growth is in the market that you're trying to set up this business in? If the market you're in is small and one guy has basically the whole market, and there isn't enough business to support both of you, you should consider an acquisition in that case, in a scenario like that. It's unrealistic to think you can go in and take all of their market share, and you may end up struggling to build your business. On the other hand, if the market is large or rapidly growing, it's much more likely that you can go in and start a business and grow it. You may actually be able to go in and build a strong business while your competitor is growing their business as well. So in a strong market like that, basically all competitors are growing at the same time because there's so much opportunity and so much growth in the market. In that type of market, when it's rapidly growing and everybody's got a lot of work, it's going to be much better to start a business, because if you try to buy somebody, you're going to end up paying a very high multiple for their business. A lot of times they're going to want you to pay for future earnings and stuff like that because it just looks so good at the time. The next consideration I would have is the amount of capital that you have access to. I'm a huge fan of this, and some of the greatest businesses ever were started in a garage as a side hustle, and the profits were reinvested until it became just a gigantic company. If you have a long time horizon, I would no doubt suggest starting small and reinvesting profits until you grow this business over time. Live below your means and reinvest all your profits, and then one day you sell it for a bunch of money. If your time horizon is much shorter, then you're gonna wanna buy a business because you just don't have the time. A lot of private equity funds and stuff, they have like a 5-year time from the time they buy a business till the time they sell a business, or a 10-year term that they're trying to hold a business. And they can't start something from scratch and then try to grow it endlessly, right? They have to make a turnaround in a reasonable amount of time because they have investors that they have to answer to. The reason I'm talking about time is because a lot of investments are determined, the time frame is determined by how much capital they have to put in. Some of my first businesses, I started from very small and I just kept reinvesting over time, and I grew this business until it was huge, and then I sold it, right? The businesses that I do now, I have a lot more money that I can put in on the front end, so it may cut off 10, 15 years off the life of a business because I was able to scale it very quickly in the first year or two. So how much money you have access to can help determine what you're ultimately going to do, whether you're going to start a business or buy a business. If you can't get a loan, if you don't have an investor, if you don't have enough money saved up to do your dream business, then you will have to do something different, something smaller, whatever. You might hear me talk a lot about starter businesses. That's because a lot of people don't have the money the first time to build their dream business. So maybe you build one business and sell it, another business and sell it, until you work your way up, right? There's a lot of businesses out there that when you're starting out are like sweat equity businesses. You're out there and you're just putting in a lot of work and time but it doesn't cost you huge investments, and you can build a business around that and then sell it. Once you get more successful, time is your most important thing, so you can't go out and like just put tons of sweat equity into something. You're more likely to invest in somebody that's gonna do that for you. It's really important that you're realistic about the amount of money that it's gonna take you to build this dream business or this business you're thinking about building, because most businesses that fail, it's because they ran out of money. Most people underestimate the amount of cash that they're gonna need, or the amount of time it's going to take for them to get to profitability. And even if they're building a good business, they just run out of money, or they have to bring on an investor at a stage, a couple years into it, because they're growing faster than they're making profits to reinvest. I may do a video on ways to come up with money. If you'd like to see that, drop a comment about it, because this is one of the big things that helps determine what you're doing. Right? Like, I can go start a landscaping business tomorrow with my pickup, and maybe I build it up and I sell it, but it's going to be much harder for me to go open a business at something like a resort if I can't get a loan or have access to capital, or I've saved up some money of my own. So it can help determine, are you starting a sweat equity business, or are you starting a business that is going to require more capital? And then after that, how much capital over the next couple of years do I need, just to be sure that if this grows or whatever, that I have enough, because you might not always have profits to reinvest. The next thing I would tell you to consider is, who are your possible targets? Is the prime buyout target somebody that's young and fired up about their business and ready to fight you till the bitter end? Or are they 75 years old and they've lost their fire for that business? One of the companies I own now was actually originally supposed to be a startup, but once I got to looking around at the competition in my area, I noticed that one of my main competitors was in his 70s. And he obviously had lost his fire for the business. After meeting with him a few times over lunch, we pretty much worked out a deal. I bought the company, and the whole process took like maybe 3 months. In that same experience, while I was looking at my competitors, I had met with a different competitor. This competitor was young, still very fired up about their business. They obviously weren't ready to go on and do other things, and the conversations were much different. With the guy that was in his 70s, he talked a lot about wanting to enjoy life, to do more things. And a lot of times when we talked about the business, although there was good memories there and stuff, a lot of the day-to-day stuff now was more of a burden. When I talked to the younger guy that was still fired up about his business, he would say things like, the business isn't for sale, but at the right price, I would have to sell, right? And that's what you get into. So when you're considering who is available to buy, that's a big deal. You could pay a lot more for a business than you need to if it's somebody that is kind of like, pry it out of my cold dead hands, I love this business, right? You're looking for the guy that wants to retire, or has some kind of health reason or something, somebody that was already looking for the exit when you came along. Because then if you hit it off with them and you can make a good deal on all the financial pieces, they were sold before you got there. If you're trying to convince the guy that's fired up about his business and gets out of bed every day ready to put on his work boots and go to work, you're going to pay a lot more. It's going to be a much harder transition. They're not going to work with you as well. So if you find a business where the guy's older and you like the business, call him up. You never know, they might be thinking about this already. So the last thing I'm going to tell you on this subject is, when you're debating, should I buy a business or should I start a business, you should think about how much stress you can handle. I know that that's not something that would normally come up when you're talking about this scenario. However, I will tell you, starting a business from scratch is about 10 times more stressful than buying a business. I bought 2 businesses, and both of them, I would say, after the close, there was some things that stressed me out, or some things that I had to change. And anytime you bring change in, it brings stress on you because you're worried about what if people don't go with this or whatever, and you're already fighting that narrative of I'm the new guy and they obviously all liked the old guy. There is stress. I'm not saying I'm not saying buying a business is just easy, right? But when you buy a business, you're buying something that's already working, or for the most part working, right? There's payroll systems, there's whatever benefits are already there, whatever equipment is needed is already there, the personnel is already there, the revenue is already there. Like most of the elements, or all of the elements, are already there. So then the stress comes in of like, what can I change to fit my culture more, or my ideas, or my future plan more? And you're stressed about, are they going to go with this or not? You're stressed about, is the customer going, they've got this big customer, are they going to quit me because of the acquisition? Like, those are different stresses. When you start a business from nothing, you have nothing. You don't have any structure around how you manage any piece of your business. You don't know if you're going to grow steady, if you're going to blow up, or if you're not going to grow at all. So trying to project out what you might budget or any of that gets so much harder. So there's a lot of guesswork. You just don't have anything, and everything you have to figure out. And a lot of times when you're figuring things out, the people around you have different views. So you're trying to figure out what's right for the company, what's right to the people involved, and balancing those things. So the stress level is just much, much higher. And I would say if you historically don't deal with stress well, I would say try to buy a business, because you can buy a business and keep all the culture the same and keep all the stuff the same, and just keep on running this business. And that's going to be a much easier thing than starting something from scratch. Guys, thanks for watching the video. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and turn your bell notifications on, and I'll see you in the next one.